I am. And here we go with a little ancient Egyptian music. The music of ancient Egypt. Whew. Morning. Morning, Colton. Here we go. Okay, that's about enough of that. That is music from ancient Egypt. I was feeling Egyptian this morning. Welcome. This is Stevie the Guide on the banks of the Guadalupe River in Kerrville, Texas. And I love you. I love you enough to give it to you straight, however it comes to me, to be honest, genuine, authentic, because I believe that there's healing in that. And I believe that it raises the vibration of this planet and humanity. And it raises our consciousness level to back where we came from. And that is, today I want to cut right to the chase about what I'm really talking about here, what I'm groping at, what I'm trying to find, what I'm trying to follow the breadcrumb trail back to where did we come from with these higher levels of consciousness. And you know, the breadcrumb trail leads to ancient Egypt, and it leads back to Samaria, and we're not taught very much about these people. All right, who were these people? You know, when I pulled up this music this morning, I was looking for some ancient Egyptian music, and let me just show you the characters here. I learned a new trick, by the way, that I kind of knew before. I'm talking about ancient Egypt there. Petrified, whatever your name is. Hi, good morning. Ancient Egypt. Now, if you can see this, take a look at those people there. Is it just me? You know, or take a close look at those three cats on the left, all right? If you can see that on your screen. You've got a green man with an elongated skull and one of those funny hats on. You've got a dog man, and you've got a bird man. And as you roll around through ancient Egypt, what you're going to find very commonly, in some of the most elevated people in their society were what appeared to be genetically altered humans. All right, and so do with that what you will. But in their hieroglyphics, in their beautiful statues carved in stone, take a look at the Great Sphinx. What do you see? You see a dog or a cat with a human head on it. Here you see men with animal heads. And I believe that those are not masks, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that those are genetically altered people. All right, that's what I think. And so do with that what you will. These are the people that knew how to build pyramids. And guess what? Look around you. Do you see anybody that knows how to build this kind of stuff? I mean, my 5 years in Peru, the irony of my missionary service in Peru was that after being exposed to countless unexplainable buildings I drew the conclusion intuitively that, the story of a limited history and primitive man did this with soft metal tools and a bunch of slaves with hemp ropes is ludicrous, all right? There's a much longer history to this planet that the powers that be really don't want you to know. They really don't. They don't want you to reach back there. Why? Why would that be? What possible motivation could they have for not wanting you to know what your real history, your real heritage is, your tribe, and that would be that people with a higher level of consciousness who knew how to build pyramids, they're a lot harder to control than a bunch of slaves. Slaves don't have higher consciousness, all right? They don't understand how that works. The people of ancient Egypt, ancient Peru, ancient wherever. Yeah, look at the planet, man. The whole planet is littered with these things. Kind of what got me off on this is my cousin Sammy the other day. Yesterday I talked about this buddy of mine that just suddenly showed up and started giving me reams of advice, which was very helpful, my friend Colton. But at the same time, my cousin Sammy chimed in. He said, I saw one of your posts on Facebook about ancient civilization and the similarities of these ancient civilizations. And in particular, their mode of construction that looks like that the stones were not really cut or chiseled or sawed. They were actually look and appear to be liquid, that somehow they were able to melt and shape or otherwise make soft these solid heavy stones and pour them into place. And I can see why a person would think that, because when you in Peru, for example, when you look at some of the ruins, it looks not like they've been cut or chiseled. It looks like they've been scooped like ice cream. There's a smooth path through there. When you look at the great stones of Sacsayhuaman, for example, they look like they've been poured in place. Here's some similarities, if you can see that on your screen, of different ruins in different countries. Now take a look at these three examples in the middle of your screen right here. Mexico, Egypt, and Indonesia. Now, do you think those architects, had some kind of collaboration? I do. And you can see all sorts of examples all over the place with this. Let's see here. This right here. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. If you look at this, for example, this is in Cusco, which is right near my house. All right, if you can see this right here, that is along a very familiar pathway. Let's see, hidden tours. Look here, this is the Sacsayhuaman fort just above my house in Cusco, and I used to walk there all the time. Those stones, those were weighing in the 30 to 100 ton category, and they are shaped and placed with such precision you cannot get a razor blade in between. And you have examples of this all over the planet. All right, giant megalithic stones that are placed together with such precision you can't even get a razor blade in between. Now, I'm here to tell you folks, that didn't just happen with a bunch of slaves and copper chisels. And so the question is, how did they do that? And Sammy and I kicked around 2 or 3 ideas. Maybe they had a way to heat up the stone so hot. And when you go to a forge, like in where Pennsylvania or one of these places that make steel, and you make a forge. You got to get granite stone about 2,500 or 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit in order for it to melt. I don't think that's what happened. You can't do that with primitive tools, primitive people. I don't believe that part. And then he said, well, maybe they could get water pressure, so high or something like that. I don't think that's it. In order to shape stone and move heavy stone like that, I don't believe they used the primitive tools, because I don't believe the story of history. Now, this is what Graham Hancock says, if you know who that is. Graham Hancock is an avid student of this kind of history. And let's see here. Here he is, Graham Hancock. Human history has become too much a matter of dogma taught by professionals in ivory towers as though it's all fact. Actually, much of human history is up for grabs. The further back you go, the more that the history that's taught in schools and universities begins to look like some kind of a fairy tale. All right? And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, this ridiculous notion that we were taught in high school, that my daughters were taught in high school, is bullshit. It's not true. I'm trying not to cuss too much. It's not true. All right? It's not true that, some Egyptians with a bunch of slaves went with copper chisels and hemp ropes 500 miles away from the Giza Plateau to the quarry at Aswan, and they somehow cut these enormous stones with great precision and dragged them on rollers across the desert, and then raised 100-ton stone to 300 feet in the air and placed it with such precision you can't even get a razor blade in between. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. And that story they've been running on us ever since I was born is insulting to the intelligence. The proper answer, the one that would be most satisfying, is, you know what? We don't know. We don't know what happened. That's a problem I have with a lot of Bible scholars and pastors, is when you ask them questions about the Bible, they try to run some story on you, which is basically their honest, interpretation, their guesstimate, instead of simply saying, we don't know. All right, we don't know. And that's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. If someone tells you that they know how the Great Pyramid of Giza was built, I don't think they're telling you the truth. And so, but there they are. You can go there and see these things. You can go to Peru. I can take you on a tour. And one day, if we ever get loose from this corona, scenario, which don't get me started on that, because I got some theories about that some people don't like. But I believe I'm going to take trips to Peru because I know it like the back of my hand. I lived there for 5 years, and there's not a chance that primitive people and primitive tools did that. And so who did that? Well, I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, moms and dads, boys and girls, the people that built the Great Pyramid of Giza, the people that built the ruins in Peru, the people that built all the unexplainable structures that absolutely litter this planet, those people are our ancestors. They are our cousins. And how did they do that? How did they do that? Well, I don't think they did it with any kind of saws and chisels so much as they did it with an ability to control consciousness. And that may seem a little far-fetched, but we are now seeing, we're on the front edge of technology that can, and maybe it wasn't conscious, and maybe it was high-tech tools. There is a lot of evidence of high-tech sawing and drilling and so forth. Stuff that we can't even do. You can imagine drilling a hole in stone, but can you imagine drilling a hole that's not round? It's a clover leaf shape. in a deep hole into a granite block. How do you do that? Well, they got it down in Peru and Egypt and so forth. But I like the notion of Dr. John Hagelin, who is the head of Transcendental Meditation in this country, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi Institute, and he's also a particle physicist, and so he draws this correlation between matter and consciousness. And what he says, Dr. John Hagelin, you can look him up. He's a fascinating character. Dr. John Hagelin says that when you break matter down all the way, when you break it down all the way to the molecules and beyond the atoms and so forth, what you come to in all matter is a living energy field, all right? And that is precisely why the indigenous people of this world, the Native Americans, they thought everything was alive, all right? They thought even rocks and trees and so forth are alive with a certain spirit, all right? Why did they think that? Because it's true, all right? It's true that when you break solid matter all the way down, what you come to is a living, moving energy field, which Dr. John Hagelin calls the unified field, or unified field theory, all right? And any physicist will tell you that, that when you break matter all the way down, it's a live field that somehow knows how to keep all matter together. It truly is a matrix world when you look at it from a physics point of view. And that is precisely what they're doing over in CERN, Switzerland right now. Some of the top scientists on this planet are collaborating together in what I call the Tower of Babel project, where they're getting together, working on the biggest, most expensive machine that men have ever made to try to figure out how this unified energy field works and how you can use it and manipulate it in all sorts of ways. Space travel, black holes, the transporter machine on Star Trek. Well, those guys over there, theoretically, that's entirely possible. Take all your molecules apart, shoot them over here, put them back together. All that's possible with the unified field, all right? Unified energy field. Now, what Dr. John Hagelin also says is that when you break consciousness all the way down through meditation, when you release the left brain logical, you stop thinking about everything, and through meditation, you relax that left brain logical, and you allow the right brain intuitive to come into full bloom, all right, and full capacity, and you are able to understand and use that correctly, then theoretically you come to the unified energy field. You come to the same place that physics comes to. All right? When you break down matter, it comes to the unified field. When you break down consciousness and you stop thinking so much, then you also arrive at the unified energy field. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, you can manipulate matter with your mind, all right? And everybody seems to know that you only use a small portion of your mind. Everybody seems to know that there's a whole bunch of your DNA that they call junk DNA, all right? But what I submit to you and what I intuitively knew when I moved to Peru was that somehow there was an ancient race of people that knew how to build stuff like that did that. Probably not the Incas. I think those are the occupiers of those buildings that were there long before them. And that's what you'll see. The ancient the Egyptian people, they'll say, yeah, we built that. Well, nobody knows how to do that anymore. But those people way back when, who built pyramids and built giant megalithic structures, those people are our ancestors, and those people had a command of consciousness that we are just now beginning to realize. And it is exactly what I'm talking about. And this notion of being able to use the unified field is real. And these people are our cousins, and we have this capacity. And I believe it is what Jesus was talking about, this Christ-like consciousness. Same thing Buddha was talking about. Same thing many of these other spiritual leaders were talking about. They weren't talking about worshiping God. They were talking about realizing the God within you. Right? That is exactly what they were talking about, because we are made in God's image. We are a part of the whole. Okay, and so it's not. It has nothing to do with what you believe or disbelieve. All right, in reference to God, it has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with is realizing who you are. All right, realizing who you are and what you are capable of. And the more that you search for that, the more it will come to you. And that is what they refer to in this great awakening. Awakening to who you are. Awakening to the Christ consciousness, this Christ-like flame. You've seen those pictures of those Pentecostals with a little flame over their head? That is what they're talking about, is an awakening to exactly who you are and what you're capable of. And I have a favorite clip from a movie that I'm going to try to show you. The audio may not be that great, but it is exactly what I've been talking about all along. And trying to raise the consciousness, the field, the unified energy field, and accessing the field. Instead of thinking your way through, to feel your way through. And that's counterintuitive sometimes. We have this intuition, but our left brain logical is constantly telling us what's right and wrong. Well, if you let that relax and feel your way through, a lot of times, it's also what they talk about in this book, Stealing Fire. They talk about a flow state of consciousness, and how the surfer, he can't think his way through that big wave ride. At some point, all the training is just instilled, and he feels it. And sometimes he can't even remember going through and making a ride, but the field takes over. And this clip I'm talking about here, it is from a movie called The Legend of Bagger Vance, and it's a 5-minute clip. And if you'll just bear with me, I'm gonna play it right now. There we go.
All right, what's it feel?
Fix your eyes on Bobby Jones.
He's a piece of work here right now.
This is a good explanation of what the field is. I'm sorry if the audio is a little low, but try to listen.
Let's practice, man. Almost like it's searching for something.
Searching for the field.
Then he finds it. Watch how he settles himself right into the middle of it.
He feels it.
Focus. And he got a lot of shots he could choose from. Duffs and tops and skulls. There's only one shot that's in perfect harmony with the field. One shot that's his. Authentic shot. And that shot is going to choose him.
That shot is going to choose him.
There's a perfect shot out there trying to find each and every one of us. All we got to do is get ourselves out of its way. Let it choose us.
Get ourselves out of the way.
Look at him. He in the field.
Let it choose us. It's already there. It's looking for you.
You can't see that flag as some dragon you got to slay. And to look with soft eyes. See the place where the tides and the seasons and the turning of the earth all come together. Where everything that is becomes one. You got to seek that place with your soul, Junior.
Now, let me repeat that, what he said, because that really, God, it strikes to my heart. You've got to seek this field, all right? It's something you've got to feel, and you've got to seek it with your soul. It's looking for you, all right? Your access point into this greater consciousness wants you to find it. It's looking for you if you'll just get yourself out of the way. And this line here, it almost brings me to tears every time I hear this. It says to be in the field, to be in that place where the tides and the seasons and the turning of the earth come together, to seek that place. Don't look at it, feel it. That place, you are a natural part of this world, all right? You're as natural and strong and powerful as the ocean, as the universe, as the stars. You're the same thing. You have a God-given ability, in much of which we don't even realize, all right? There's an ability there. There's a capacity. If you would just get yourself out of the way. This is what drives me, ladies and gentlemen, this feeling that I've had. It goes beyond any logical explanation. Because it's not logical, all right? It's not. It's much greater than your capacity to think. What Terence McKenna goes, it's not what I thought it was. It's not what I can think it was. All right. When he's talking about ayahuasca, a natural plant medicine that opens up the consciousness, makes you look from a broader perspective. It's been used for thousands of years. It's not the be-all, end-all. All right. But it is a hack into this higher consciousness, and that's what gives people the notion, or at least it gives them a glimpse past that left brain logical. And take any ancient method that is commonly used throughout history, dancing, chanting, meditating, drumming, all these various things, the use of plant medicines, ceremonies, songs, communal harmony, whirling dervishes, pick one. But our left brain logical Western society has discouraged all these things. They boosted up the left brain logical super high and dropped down the right brain intuitive super low. And that's why we're imbalanced creatures. And if you've ever seen Sir Ken Robinson's famous TED Talk, which if you have not, you should. It's about a 20-minute TED Talk. It's like the #1 most popular TED Talk. It's funny and fascinating. And basically what he says is that our education system in the West, whether it be Europe or the United States and elsewhere, Canada, it has sought to strip mine a certain commodity out of the left brain with our education system. Reading, writing, arithmetic, and so forth, all the logical things to get a certain commodity out of us. And it has discouraged right brain intuitive. So many of your brilliant right brain intuitive people have been labeled learning impaired or dyslexic, or somehow labeled as weird or strange or whatever, because they see a broader picture. They're drugged and they're sent to special schools or sent to insane asylums. In shamanic culture, those kind of people are embraced and say, wow, this person knows something else. Let's learn from them. They're actually drawn in and elevated, all right? And this pushing away of the right brain intuitive people and those people who have a broader awareness, it isolates them and it makes all the others afraid, because we have a primal need, ladies and gentlemen, and that primal need is to belong. We have a need to belong. And if we have certain, I've learned from conducting 2 years of the Forbidden Discussions, weekly meetings that I have with groups of people. We'll be starting back up here in Kerrville as soon as this COVID bullshit is over. And sorry, I try not to say that. But what I have found is that many people, good people, many conservative people are hiding in a cloak called normal. All right, they're hiding in it, and they've had experiences. They've seen, when they were little, especially, the stories are rampant. I had an imaginary friend. I could see the future. I could intuitively know when Aunt Jenny was going to come through the door. I was out of my body. I traveled through the universe. All these various things. I've had divine guidance, divine protection. Past life regression, things like this. And what's happened to millions of human beings on this planet is that early on they were discouraged from exploring that right brain intuitive. And they've said, no, you didn't see that. I don't care. This is what Richard Pryor says. I don't care what you think you saw. It didn't happen. All right. I don't care what you think you felt. I don't care what you think you know. All right. It's not true. And very quickly we learn that if we use those right brain intuitive skills, that we will be ostracized from our tribe. All right. And our need to belong to that tribe will be broken. And so we have to cloak ourselves. No, I'm normal and stuff like that. Comes a lot of that, I'm telling you, comes from the witch hunting that's gone on for hundreds of years. And it's damn sure been something to be frightened of, especially even in this country. They were burning witches, up in Salem, Massachusetts, and certainly all over Europe for hundreds of years. They're persecuting anyone who was not part of the norm, all right? And they could screw up your life and your business and your family in any number of ways if you were a right brain intuitive. But that is precisely what is needed to bring balance back to this world, all right? This totally imbalanced world that's got, this handful of, money-grabbing control freaks who want to take over the whole place. And the rest of us are like, what do we do? But what's happening is that people are waking up. They're coming into their own. They're saying, you know what? I can't stay here in this part because there's another primal need that's running up against that need to belong. And that primal need is the need to recognize and express your intuition. All right, you have an intuition that's powerful, more powerful than you may realize, and it is I don't believe that your consciousness is in the brain. I believe your brain is a radio transmitter receiver that accesses education. And I'll say it again and again. It's easy to believe that this thing operates on invisible waves, and it accesses all sorts of information through invisible microwaves you can't see, all right? But you find it hard to believe that this thing, a far superior computer, cannot do that, all right? And I submit to you, folks, that it is because you have been discouraged and you've been frightened of being ostracized from your group, all right? You've been frightened of being labeled weird or crazy or otherwise put down. And that right brain intuitive is quite sensitive. It doesn't want to be discouraged. That inner child, that small, still voice, that's your intuition, all right? And that is the very part. Your left brain logical is never, ever, ever going to access the unified field, all right? That unified energy field. It is not logical, all right? That left brain is just going to read the words on the paper, listen to the lectures, and somehow regurgitate what's been taught, all right? Don't discount the left brain, because when the intuition gives you information, it's the left brain that helps you carry it out, to set goals, to accomplish things here on the physical earth. But It's the right brain intuitive that allows you a much broader picture of what's going on. And I believe our ancestors knew how to access that, and I believe we do too. It's just that we've forgotten, right? And that's what's going on around here. They had access to the unified field, and you have to settle yourself into it. In that clip from Bagger Vance, I'm so romantic about that clip. You have to settle yourself into it. You cannot think your way into the unified energy field. Your thinking is, and what it says in that clip is, you've got to get yourself out of the way. You've got to go out of your mind, all right? Out of your mind. You've got to left the mind, really, in my opinion, is the left brain logical. That does the thinking part. And when you say, are you out of your mind? Well, that's not really a bad thing in many instances. The left brain logical does keep you out of trouble. All right, it does observe and follow the rules, and helps us to stay out of danger. And don't be discounting what you learn in church and Sunday school, because there's a lot of wonderful rules that you're learning there that help your life and strengthen you. And but at some point, you have to take all that you have learned, and then step into your own, into the wilderness of your intuition, as Alan Alda says. Sometimes you've got to step out of the security of your tribe and walk into the wilderness of your intuition, and there you will find yourself, and it will be wonderful. But it is an exercise, a daily exercise, and which brings me to the weekly challenge. My friend Colton said, got to have a weekly challenge. And our weekly challenge this week is what I was talking about yesterday, which is summon an angel. Summon help. Actively try to settle yourself down and imagine what it is you're trying to accomplish. What's your vision? What's your passion? How do you want your life to be? And get a picture of that in your mind, and then ask for help. Ask for help to come. And you have to do that in a settled state. You have to go out of your mind, all right? You have to settle in and feel it, all right? Feel that help coming in one form or another. And develop this gymnasium that I'm in, and I get a little bit better at it all the time because I show up, I suit up, in my Mississippi State shirt. I show up here, I turn this thing on, and I try to develop my craft. And in doing so, there's a healing. There's a healing that happens in practicing your craft and allowing yourself just to free flow in whatever you do. Do not be afraid. When you intuitively know what you're supposed to do, you do. And whether it's cooking or painting or dancing or, creating a beautiful garden or whatever it may be, there is an art, a craft, writing, poetry, singing, writing a script, whoever, whatever. There's something in you that wants to come out. And in practicing that craft and not worrying about what the reaction will be, you re-enter your childlike state, all right? And you have to be in touch with your inner child. The great book that I'll also talk about again and again is called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. The Artist's Way. I don't know if I have it here. I think it's in the other room, but that book is a great exercise. It's not just about being an artist and how to write or paint. It's about how to encourage and bring up your inner child by exercises of daily writing, daily pages, just for the hell of it. And this is kind of what I do in this live stream every day. It's the morning pages, you know, and I do it, instead of doing it in private, I do it in a very public way, because it's the direction where I want to go. And so not worrying too much about what the public thinks. And just simply flowing it out there any way I can. And so the upshot of today is that we have access to this unified energy field. When I was living in Peru for 5 years, and the nature of my job was to take doctors and dentists and builders and teachers all over rural Peru. I could take you to villages way back in the Andes Mountains where you feel like you went back in time. It's so primitive. There's no Wi-Fi there. There's no running water there. There's no electricity, no nothing, no cell phones. And the people seem pretty damn happy, by the way, when you go back there. And but all along the way, you will see these archaeology sites have the most amazing construction, buildings and water channels and stone terraces and stuff that come from an ancient tribe of people, right? And again, I don't believe it was the Incas. I believe it was people before them. And in fact, when Francisco Pizarro went to Peru and conquered it in 1532, and by the time they figured out the language and were able to communicate with the Incas, they said, "How did you guys build all these buildings?" And they said, "Oh, we didn't build them. It was the people way before us." Right? And so that was in the 1500s when the Incas told Pizarro and his people that. And so and you know, when you trace the breadcrumb trail of these ancient tribes of people all the way back, when you go to these ancient cultures in Japan and China and Cambodia and Peru and Mexico and elsewhere, pick an ancient culture, Maya, Inca, you know, wherever, Easter Island, there's always a story about people that came from the sky and taught us how to do this stuff. All right. Now, do with that what you will. All right. But whether they came from the sky from another planet, or they simply came from the sky and some technology they cooked up elsewhere on this planet, I don't know. You got two primary theories about that, which is the ancient alien theory, where people came from outer space with technology, or you have the pre-diluvian theory, which is before the Great Flood, there was a race of people who had high technology, and that our civilization here on Earth is much, much older. Now, I don't necessarily buy into either one of those. I think both of them are possible. But what I strongly suspect is whoever the hell they were, they had a much greater command of their brain. And I think a lot of things happen around here that keep our right brain intuitive down and our left brain logical high. And that they put stuff in our water, in our food. We get microwaves. We are in an education system, by and large, that totally discourages the right brain intuitive. A religious system, and you know, I'm not for things, anything that divides us anymore. Not anymore. You know, I don't classify myself in any group of people at all, whether it's state, local, federal, religious, education, anything that separates human beings, I'm not for anymore. I want us all to be together. I know we're all one family, and I want that family to come back together. It's like we've been in a big fight for a long, long time, some family feud. When really, if we were presented with the fact that we are actually one family, and that we have a lost tribe of people that knew a lot of things that we don't know. And if you come into that intuitive right brain strong enough, all there is love. Love is right brain intuitive. It's that feminine energy. Left brain logical is fear and anger and war and selfishness. And there's a certain amount of helpfulness that comes from that. But it's got to be balanced, left and right. And when it's not my belief, if I said many times, when you come into a balance with those two, it will release a electromagnetic heart energy that allows you a much broader picture, and it's what they call the Christ consciousness, and has nothing to do with organized religion, nothing to do with that. Christ was teaching us that we have access to a Christ consciousness, and you will do these and greater things. Do ye not know that ye are gods? Do you not know that? All right, you are, and you have the same access point. And your meditation practice, my friends, and your other methods of relaxing that left brain logical and raising that right brain intuitive, that is the doorway. That is the access point, all right? Settling yourself down enough to feel your way through it, all right? And it will gradually, if you're willing to let go, to sit yourself. Dr. Joe Dispenza is a great guy, and he talks about training yourself to sit like a dog, just as you were training a puppy to sit every day for 10 minutes, especially at the first of the day is best, and to train yourself like a dog. Like, no, I'm not going to go and get you coffee right now. No, you're going to sit and close your eyes and settle your left brain logical down. And I'll get you coffee later. You'll be able to look at your screen later. And he talks about training your mind, doing things that are different, not getting into a set pattern of thinking and behavior. If you're willing to do this, it will start to rearrange your brain. It will start to shake up the snow globe of your mind. It will start to give you new ideas, and you will be able to distinguish between what your deliberate left brain logical is telling you and what your small, still voice, your right brain intuitive, is beginning to tell you. Those two voices are different, and you'll be able to begin to distinguish between the two. Meditation is not prayer. It's not contemplative prayer. Prayer is mental talking. Meditation is mental listening. All right, and it is not easy. I'm talking to myself here, and I practice this all the time. My coming on here and talking is a form of meditation in a way, because what comes out of my mouth is not calculated very much. I put some structure. As my friend Colton was telling me, you need to put some structure here. He wrote this formula on the blackboard. Remember Colton? See that little blue formula right there? He says, there should be some format to your talk. And he gave me all these different things. Now, you see on the board there? He gave me all these things to consider when trying to deliver a message here to become a bit more organized. That's left brain logical, which is important. But to form more of a format and to free flow into. That's what he was saying. Don't give up your free-flowing style because it's where a lot of that comes from. But create a bit of a format within it, a framework, if you will. And so I'm doing the best I can. I've been showing up at this mental gym now, coming up on 75 hours, and I'm very pleased that I've actually been showing up again and again to do this exercise. But now, just like after you've been at it a while, you want to start, if you want to take it to the next level, you got to start, putting in a little structure and so forth. But anyway, I encourage you folks. We are, in fact, the members of a lost tribe. That is what I believe in my heart. And once I lived in Peru for 5 years, and I felt connected with the people that built these things. And I have 3 questions about ancient civilization. One is, how did they build these buildings? Who were these people? And what is our relationship to them? And I believe our relationship to our ancestors who could build pyramids is through our consciousness, all right? And we will understand much more if we're willing to relax and feel our way into that field, that unified field that they talk about on Bagger Vance. Don't look at it, feel it. Don't try. Just allow yourself into it. And that practice is not taught very well in our society. It's discouraged. And let me read that again from Bagger Vance. Be in the field, the place where the tides and the seasons and the turning of the earth all come together. And to add to that, the stars and the ocean currents and the rising of the sun and the falling of the leaves and all those natural things, that is us too. We've lost our way, folks. We've lost our way in many ways. And that is why, in my opinion, the world has limited resources. It has millions and millions of people who starve and don't have proper running water, don't have electricity, don't have access to the internet. It's why, a small handful of people are running the whole show. And they have all the marbles, all the money on the monopoly board, when so many others don't. And there's a gross imbalance about this world that disturbs me more all the time. And all I can do about it, I can, they say you can stand at the ocean and holler at the waves, or you can wax down your surfboard and learn to ride, baby. Learn to ride. And so I'm doing the best I can just by being a communicator. I believe the way out of this mess is by developing yourself internally. There's a tremendous power in developing yourself internally, relaxing the left brain logical and raising the right brain intuitive, and that is the access point into the Christ consciousness, which gives you the answers that the logical is never ever going to find. All right, it will give you the answers, and in doing that, all right, it causes a higher vibrational frequency to be emitted from you. All right, and when that happens, it transfers to other people. And as more and more of us are operating on that higher frequency, it causes an upward shift in what I call the cymatic pattern of consciousness. Cymatics, when you raise the vibration on the sound plate, the sand turns into more and more complex patterns. All right, look up cymatics if you don't know what that is. Cymatic patterns, C-Y-M-A-T-I-C, cymatic. And all of a sudden there's a collective shift in the cymatic pattern of our consciousness, and all of a sudden that, my friends, is the second coming of Christ. That is what Christ was talking about when all of us raise our vibration to a higher frequency and able to access a higher bandwidth with our consciousness. All right, and we're not kept down anymore. And that is what Christ and Buddha and all our other fabulous teachers were trying to teach us. All right, and that is where we're coming to. But you've got to want it. You've got to settle yourself down. And that's the best I can tell you. I'm here doing whatever I can to raise the vibration of humanity. all right, and the best I know how, and I'm not too worried about what the reaction's going to be. I'm doing my art, and this is what I'm called to do, and I'm going to do it the best I know how. Just like a child painting a watercolor picture, I'm going to paint it the very best I know how, and do with it what you will. I'm having fun painting it, and I believe that it is somehow, in some small way, it'll do some good, and I do that because I truly love you. I love you with all my heart and soul. And I'm going to give it to you honestly any way it comes to me. And I'm not going to be afraid of the naysayers and the folks that think it's woo-woo. And I don't care anymore. And I care less the further I go down this rabbit hole. And they say Joseph Campbell, who's studied all the myths, and he came up with the hero's journey. And this is the journey that each of us must take alone to find ourselves. He said, in order to find the treasure that you seek, you must enter the darkest part of the forest, the scariest part, the part without any trail. There is no trail to where your holy grail is. You must go. If there's a trail leading there, you're on the wrong path. You have to go your own way and find your own pathway into that place that's scary for you, and in there you will discover the treasure that you seek. And so I wish you luck on your journey, and I give blessings to you and to those in our lost tribe. I ask them to come and help us if they can. And I love you. I love the Lord, and I love. I'm a devoted follower of Christ, who is my Savior, really. And because I can feel Him, not so much what I've read in a book, not what I've heard in a sermon. I feel it, all right, and I feel my way into it, and that's what I believe Christ wanted us to do: is to feel rather than to think so much. And so. Stevie the God here. We're approaching the 6 o'clock hour. I thank you guys for showing up. Monica and Swooner. Yes, this is live, Swooner. Where do you guys come up with these names? Truth Conductor Don, I love you. Anyway, I hope you'll have a great day. I got to go to work now after painting this watercolor picture. I wish you the very best. Let's see if there's anything I've missed. Just take one more look at these buildings before I go. Take a look at this right here. There you got your Egyptian pyramids. And that is the Sacsayhuaman Temple, Sacsayhuaman Fort. There in Cusco, Peru, and I used to live there. I mean, look at those stones. Now, there ain't no primitive people with primitive, copper chisels and hemp ropes that put that together, my friends. Not a chance, all right? There's not a chance that primitive people did this precision work, and you can say whatever you want to, but didn't happen. One last word. The term of the day is the Socratic method. Socratic method is a form of cooperative argumentative dialogue between individuals based on asking and answering questions to stimulate critical thinking and draw out ideas and underlying presuppositions. All right, and what you're going to come to in the Socratic method is you're going to come to cognitive dissonance. All right, cognitive dissonance is where you have a belief system, and then you're presented with new information that makes you say, it makes you question your existing belief, and there's a friction that happens in between those two. And so I challenge you. The Socratic method raises questions. The Socratic method is for curious boys like me. And there again are those people from Egypt. I'm going to leave you with this. And Stevie the Guide here on the banks of the Guadalupe River. It's 6 o'clock. I love you with all my heart and soul. And I hope you have a great day.